Welcome to demo number 2 for your abstract triptych. Again, man, that's hard to say. We're going to be looking at doing steps 2 and 3 today. So last time we finished step 1, which was a fairly realistic representation of the photograph we have. And you can see, like, I definitely simplified some of the details, but I've still got the colors and the values in the same place, some of the details all in the same place. You can tell it's a little boy, his toys are there, we've got the shadows going on. I actually really like how it turned out, with the exception of those chairs. I don't like how black the edges are. I wish that I had made that metal part a little bit more gray. And here's the reason. So we're talking about contrast in this project. And because that black is the darkest area in the entire painting, and this gray of the sea is one of the lighter areas of the entire painting, it has the area of highest contrast, the dark and the light together, which means that's where our eyes go right at the beginning. When we look at this painting, the first thing we see is the chairs. And the chairs are not the most important thing. I want Joshua or the toys to be the most important thing. So if I was going to go back into this, I would try to figure out a way to make the chairs feel less important and bring out maybe the contrast in Joshua. However, if I cover up the chairs, I kind of see there. See it like that. I don't know. It actually, the rest of the painting feels really cohesive and goes together really nicely. So one of the fun things is that in the next 2 steps, I get to choose how to simplify this even more. So I can choose if I want to emphasize the chairs and actually like make them fun and important as a part of the abstraction, or I can choose if I want to de-emphasize the chairs and kind of get rid of them, make them fade into the background. So that's a fun choice that I get to make. Another reason why they feel like they don't fit is because everywhere I've tried to create some value based on form, so the lights and the darks of the form, but it was really hard to do in these chairs because this area was light. So because there's this black outline and no value in the form of the chair, they feel really cartoonish. So that's something we'll talk about. If you've got dark outlines, it has a tendency to feel more cartoonish, less realistic. So it's the nature of kind of what the chairs actually look like, but I sort of emphasized it in my painting, and I don't like that. But now I get the opportunity to change it. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I started off with this photograph, and I am going to put that away. I can even throw it away at this point. I don't wanna look at it for the next 2 stages. So off that goes. And now what I'm gonna do for stage 2 is I'm gonna put stage 1, and this is gonna be my reference point. So now I'm gonna take a look at this, and I'm gonna decide, what do I want to simplify in this? Do I want to take out all of these vertical lines that are the porch railings? Do I want to take out some of these lines that are on the porch? Do I want to take out these chairs completely? Do I want to start to connect? I really like the shape of some of these shadows. Do I want to start to connect some of those shadows and make them the actual part, the things that I emphasize? So you're kind of choosing, what do you want to emphasize? What do you want to get rid of? This one, if you've read the instructions, which hopefully you have, is going to be a grayscale painting. So we're going to get rid of all the color. So you still need to think about, okay, what's dark, what's light, what's medium, and it's going to be almost even more important in this because we won't have any color contrast. We'll only have value contrast in this one. So I think I'm gonna play around with kind of choosing shapes that I think are interesting. I wanna be careful that I don't end up being too blocky, so I'm gonna emphasize some different shapes, and I'm gonna get rid of some of the stuff in the middle, and then I'm gonna try to like combine, okay, what areas are dark, what areas are light, and go from there. Now, in terms of abstraction, you don't want to go too simple too quick because we still have one more simplification we want to go. So the goal was to sort of live in the world of it looks like reality. It may be simplified, but it still looks like reality. This one you want to be halfway. So you might want things that still feel a little bit like reality, and then you might want some things that kind of feel like just total abstraction. And then the final one we want to feel totally abstracted. But this one, like if there's a few recognizable things, great, but you want it to live in that halfway world. So I'm going to start by sketching. We'll see what I end up with, and then I'll work on painting. Okay, so as you can see, it gets a little easier and quicker each time because the details become less and less important. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of playing around with the shadows, how they interact with the like harsh geometry of the porch. So there's kind of some areas where there's darks and lights. I really liked how the light on Joshua stood out, so I'm creating that as a shape, and I'm not going to draw the other part of him because I think that's kind of interesting to pull that out, and it sort of looks like a little boy standing there and sort of doesn't because half of it's missing. Now what's really important is that as I'm drawing this out, I'm also thinking about, okay, what's going to be light, what's going to be dark, what's going to be medium. So I'm going to keep this as dark and this stripe across as dark, and the shadows are going to be dark. And I've got kind of half of this, this bush is going to blend into this, so that's going to be medium dark back there. And then the sky I'll keep light, and this part of Joshua I'll keep light. And then the porch is pretty light too. So I'll keep that light and that dark. And then I can kind of play around. Again, if you start light, so start with your light areas and then keep pushing areas darker, remember to wait for it to dry before you do adjacent areas so you can get that sharp edge. And then if you need to kind of keep nuancing, then you can keep pushing darker. But like I experienced with my chairs, once you go too dark, you're sort of stuck with that in watercolor. It's really hard to lift that off. So here goes. I'm going to start light and then keep pushing dark. And I'm only going to use my black watercolor. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull some of that black watercolor out. Right there. Oops. Help if I actually went for the black and not the blue. So there's black, and then I'm going to make sort of a medium, and then I'm going to do a light. Let's start with those light areas. Okay, you'll notice that instead of trying to paint around all the dark details here, I just painted through. So that's a lovely thing with watercolor. So since we're using the same color, we're just going to keep getting darker. That made it a lot easier. However, I do want to wait until it all dries before I go in and do some of these darker details. So I'm going to give it a few minutes and then come back to it. Okay, so I finished step 2. So you can see that it is significantly simplified from step 1, but you can still see a lot of the structure that's going on there. And if you want to, you can recognize a few things. So I did end up drawing the dark side of Joshua because that's something I want to emphasize. So I made a little bit more intentional choice about making this and these 4 toys the darkest areas and the areas of highest contrast, so that they would be the areas that your eyes are drawn to. It is significantly simplified, but there are still a few areas that you can kind of tell what's going on. So you can kind of imagine these are stairs, you can see the plants, the bush, the house, etc. So in the next one, I'm going to want to try to eliminate that completely. But I'm going to keep in mind, like, what makes an interesting composition? How do I create balance? How do I create contrast? So just like we put the picture away, we're going to put step 1 to the side for now. And when we do simplification for step 3, we're only going to look at step 2. So just like in step 2, how I combined some things, that's one of the easiest ways to simplify, I think, is so I combined the bush and the fence. I kind of eliminated all this stuff in the fence. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine some of these dark areas, but try to keep the shapes. And I can emphasize them a little bit more, right? Like at this point, like I have a lot of creative control. They don't have to be in the exact same place. So if I want to make something a little bit bigger, I can make it bigger. If I want to make something a little bit smaller, I can make it smaller. If I want to combine some of these things, I want it to be based off this, but I also want it to be completely abstract. So I want to make sure that I'm getting rid of this sense of there's a little boy there, there's a house there, there's a bush there. Like I want to just be totally shape-based for this final one. Another thing that you're going to want to think about for the final one is we're reintroducing color for the final one, but I want it to be a completely different color scheme than your number 1 is. So you might want to keep number 1 around just so you can make sure that you're not doing the same color scheme. So for example, I really like the blue and orange color scheme. As you can tell, I picked this photo. But I want to make sure that I don't do a blue and orange color scheme on this one because I already have it. So the colors in this should end up being completely different than this one. But first, I'm going to sketch and simplify. Okay, so again, this sketch went even quicker than this sketch because I had less to sketch. It became even more less important what the things are. So what I was really thinking about was what shapes do I like? How do I create interesting balance and contrast? And now what I need to decide is what colors are things gonna be. So when you're coming up with an arbitrary color scheme, this can actually be one of the biggest challenges of design, because there's just so many options with color, right? Color is a wonderful thing. It's a powerful thing. It's also something that can easily go wrong. So one of the, there are two basic recommendations out there. If you don't feel like you have an instinct for color, and I am one of those people, I do not have a good instinct for color. If you just give me all the colors and let me do whatever, I always end up with a rainbow. And that's just not a good solution to all design or illustration problems. So one possibility is to look at color schemes that other people have made. So I have this book, and I can just literally flip through it and look at different color schemes. And I can just go like, what do I like? What do I not like? So I think I kind of like this purplish brown one, for just because it's very different than something I normally do. So I think I'm gonna stretch myself and try the purplish brown one. We'll see how it goes out, or how it turns out. But before I kind of move forward with that, the other, if you're looking for color schemes, there are two really good websites. One of them is color.adobe.com, and another one is designseeds.com. And they both have color schemes that people have made, and they're just huge variety, fun. You can just scroll through and pick one that you like. Another option for when you're trying to come up with a good color scheme is to just look at the world around you and pick based on that. So I've got all sorts of like tubs of like yogurt tubs and things like that for painting with, and a designer has made this. So like this blue and red color scheme could be really fun with that secondary color of light blue, and then a tertiary color of that kind of gold going on. So like someone picked those colors to go together. Or I've got this yogurt cup. I don't want to tip it over too much because it's full of water, but it's got the dark blue, the brilliant blue, and the yellow with a stripe of green, a hint of green in there. So I can, like, that's a limited color scheme that I can use. That's a limited color scheme that I can use. If I have a t-shirt that I like that has a couple colors on it, you can look at that. You can also just like look at a photograph you like and pick out what are the main colors in that. Are there contrasting colors? Are there similar colors? So you can play around with that. So I'm going to start with kind of like a brighter purple, a lesser purple, a duller brown, and then like a cream color. So if I have those colors, one of the things I want to do then is kind of identify where do I want those colors? And again, we're thinking of color contrast. So I might actually turn this cream into a little bit more yellowish, because yellow and purple are opposites, and then have the brown be a little bit more neutral. But I won't make a bright yellow. So I'm thinking through contrast, and I'm thinking through emphasis. So I want to emphasize this part and these four things. So these are kind of my main areas. So those I'm going to make the bright purple. And then I think all the other like plant-based shadows, I am going to make the sort of slightly more neutral purple or lighter purple. And then I'm going to do this main background. It needs to be different, so I'm going to do that as the sort of creamish yellow, which leaves this and this area for me to decide. So I might do variations on brown. I might do, this is light, I might do a darker brown here and a medium brown here. Let's see how it turns out. It's harder to kind of like shift color, but if for some reason, like on this one, as I felt things needed to get darker, I kept repainting a little bit, so I can do that still a little bit with this one too. Or if I'm really worried, I can get a separate piece of paper and I can put the colors, kind of just blob them out in the right place and see if I think it looks good. But I'm gonna take a shot and see how it goes. So first I'm gonna give myself a palette, a clean palette to paint on, and then go for it. I forgot in that last one, I do want a space to test colors, so I'm gonna have my little tester paper here. I am realizing with regret that I jumped straight into the dark purple when, as always with watercolor, you want to work light to dark. So I should have done the light yellow background before doing the dark purple. So I'm going to do the dark purple here since I've mixed up that color and I want it to be the same color. And then I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to mix up the yellow, and I'm going to have to paint carefully around it. Okay, so I have finished with step 3. You can see I've got that purple and yellow color scheme going on. It doesn't look at all recognizable. This is not something you would see in the real world. The color scheme is different from number 1, and there's increasing abstraction from 1, 2, and 3. So my next thing that I need to do is figure out how to display it. So first off, since you're going to be turning these in digitally, you need to make sure that you photograph these, and please follow the recommendations for how to photograph art posted in Discovery. You'll notice that all of my paper is warped just a little bit, so I might want to like tape it down in the back when I photograph it so that it's straight and I don't get that warping in the photograph. And then once you have 3 digital images, you're going to want to put them together. So if you're familiar with InDesign or Photoshop, you can use those programs. If not, PowerPoint is a great tool. And what you're going to need to do is decide how you want to arrange them. So you can arrange them sort of in a classic side to side manner. You can arrange them up and down. You could even, if you felt like the order looks best, you can flip around the order. You can kind of alter how they fit together. It doesn't have to be just horizontal or vertical. But you get to decide. Another thing that you're going to want to decide is choose between a white, a gray, or a black background. Don't use another color. But decide what's going to like show your art the best. Since these 2 were so light, I went with the black background because it allows those, it creates a nice border around those. But sometimes I often really like white frames on my art, so sometimes you might like that. And gray is also a nice neutral color that everything pops out against. So up to you, choose the value of the background. Use a program to put it all together, and then you're going to upload it onto Discovery. And I really look forward to seeing how these turned out.